Good morning, good evening, good everything in between, and welcome to the podcast. It is week 8, and we are getting on our way through the season. Interleague is coming up. I'm your host, Jim Obernicki, and I'm joined as always by Mr. Gabe Lerman. Gabe, how you doing?
Newly hitched. And I
That's
gotta say,
true.
feels pretty good.
Newly hitched and back from his globe-trotting honeymoon. I was going to say vacation, almost the same thing, not quite. Where'd you go? Real quick, let's just talk about that for a sec.
Just to Amsterdam. I did get to take in a baseball game though.
And what's the difference? It's like a different kind of game, right? Or is it just it's just still
It's the
baseball?
same game. You're thinking of the Finnish Pesapallo, which is some mutant form of baseball. No, in the Netherlands, it's the same game. They just call it honkball.
Honkball. That's a great name.
So
So,
in one of the top 10 plays, I mentioned I'm coming back from my honeymoon, and I say more honk on the honkball.
and we are unfortunately not joined by Mr. Michael Beasley. He's a little under the weather this week, so we will be splitting his work. And so, Gabe, what do you have for today for us in the top stories?
All-star voting has opened up. If you're up for navigating a Japanese website, you can visit npb.jp and you too can vote to send your favorite Pacific League players to the two-game series. Unlike in North America, there are two All-Star games, one at each of a CL and PL ballpark. This year, the first All-Star game will be at Escon Field, Hokkaido, the second at Meiji Jingu Stadium.
I think that's a really cool parallel. I love the idea of having sort of like the newest stadium, and Jingu's the was it the oldest, or would that be Koshin?
I think Koshien predates Jingu, but not by much.
Yeah, okay. It's a nice, beautiful little parallel there. I think that's very cool. Maybe next week we will let you know what our All-Star ballots were. And also, as I alluded to, Interleague is coming up. What do you have for us on that?
All I'm going to say is that second place in the Pacific League has a better record than first place in the Central. So things could get a little tilted. This is going to be an opportunity for the rest of the Pacific League to gain some ground on the Hawks, if anything, because the
Mhm.
CL probably is the weaker league at this point. At least more, tighter bunched together. The distance from first to second in the PL is the same as first to sixth in the CL. I
Yeah,
also think it's going to be weird to see Pacific League pitchers bat at the CL ballparks, but of course we can't see it because we don't have the broadcast rights. But all interleague matches hosted at Pacific League ballparks will be available on Pacific League TV. They may also be available on FTF Sports and WatchDingo.com. Stay tuned.
now see, I get the logic of maybe some PL teams can catch up to the Hawks, and the problem is that the Hawks are going to embarrass the CL teams too. So I don't know. It just sounds like the Hawks' record's going to get even better than it already is. But speaking of the Hawks, that brings us into our Around the Horn segment, the main segment of our show, where we look at all the teams from top to bottom in the league. And as I'm starting every week off, we are starting with the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks. And as I'm sure many of you have heard or saw, the Hawks ran up the score this week, picking up a combined 33 runs in their two-game series against the Tohoku Rakuten Golden Eagles, including a absolute brutal 21 to nothing slaughter on the 20th of May, just the other day. This marks the seventh time the Hawks have put up 20 plus runs and shut out their opponent at the same time. The most any team in MPB has ever done that, which is a very specific stat, but that's pretty cool. Other specific stats from this little series is the first time in modern MPB history, so with the two leagues, a shortstop has hit two triples in the same inning. Well, anyone's hit two triples in the same inning, not just the shortstop. And that was done by Mr. Kenta Imamiya, who's having a fantastic season. And then they followed that game up with a 12 to nothing beatdown. And third time in MPB history, a team has had two back-to-back double-digit scores combined with shutouts. Those other two teams were the 1997 Yomiuri Giants and the 1967 Kintetsu Buffaloes. Though, interesting note, I looked into this, neither of those teams actually even made it to the Japan series that year. So hopefully that's not a bad omen, and hopefully the Hawks aren't peaking too early. But other than that, it's been fantastic to watch them lately. A little bit of late congratulations to Mr. Yuki Inagita for being named the Player of the Month for April. I feel like I saw that quite a while ago, but we're only getting around to it now. But hats off to the future Hall of Famer who's having himself a fantastic year. And super slugger Hotaka Yamakawa is the first hitter to reach 10 home runs this year, sitting at 12, which makes him the first Japanese player to reach 10 before anyone else has since 1961, when fellow Hawk legend Katsuya Nomura did it. And by the way, Yamakawa still has more RBIs than hits this season, which is just a beautiful stat. I'm going to keep my eye on that all season. He could break it at any time, but man, I want him to keep it up. Just RBIs only, big guy.
Really, we're calling Yamakawa a Hawks legend already?
I
I'm
I meant that I meant the Hawk legend Nomura, not that Yamakawa was a Hawks legend. I know how that the moment I said it, I was like, that's not quite
mm.
what I meant, but I mean,
Hey,
we'll
give
see
it
how the
time.
season
We'll
goes,
see.
right? And that brings us over to the second place team in the league, the Hokkaido Nippon Ham Fighters. Take it away, Gabe.
So, yeah, 6 games back of the Hawks, but like I said, better record than anyone in the CL. It's high time for the Fighters to have had a breakout season, and this is that. Yeah, going 0-2-1 against Lotte last weekend stinks, but they've won every other game in the last 2 weeks, so call it square, I guess. The last time the Fighters were 6 games over 500 was August 6th, 2019. That fact from Nikon Sports. This team hasn't been to the postseason since finishing third in 2018. I got a good feeling that they could finally get some home postseason games at SCon Field, Hokkaido. Can you imagine how that building is going to be vibrating? I mean, team stats wise, they've been on a roll too. Aside from the Hawks, they're the only team in the PL with a positive run differential, third in ERA, tops in stolen bases across the team. Can we take a moment to appreciate how big of a find Yuya Gunji has turned into? Moved him off catcher and into third, and now he's slashing 259, 311, 370 with 4 home runs and 21 RBI. With Yuki Nomura's injury and now Nomura playing left field, all of a sudden, Gunji's found himself a home on the diamond. Ditto for the Seiji Tanaka pickup last season. Tanaka now sits second in the Pacific League with 10 saves to go with 5 holds, only allowing 2 runs, one of those earned, in 18 innings pitched. And second in holds in the Pacific League is his setup man, Ryusei Kawano, 13 holds over 18 games, only one earned run allowed. This fighter's bullpen is stingy.
Yeah, I mean the Fighters have been really impressive this season. I think we both picked them to go to the playoffs, but I didn't expect them to be quite this good. I mean, if it weren't for the Hawks doing what they were doing, the Fighters could be in first in like a hypothetical sense. But man, yeah, you're right. If they get to have home games at Escon Field, that's appointment viewing. I have to catch those games. That's going to be wild.
Absolutely.
And speaking of environments where it's wild, that brings us over to the third place team, the Zozo Marine Stadium residents, the Chibalode Marines. 5-3-2 since we last spoke, including having back-to-back one-to-one ties with the Buffaloes and the Fighters. I wasn't able to ever find if anyone else has had back-to-back 1-1 ties with two different teams. That seems like a really specific stat, but I'm not going to break my head looking for that. Something that's been really helping the Marines' record so far this season is they've just totally dominated the Lions. I mean, who hasn't? But they're 8-0 against them so far in the season, which is the only team in MPB who's not lost to another team yet, if that makes sense. I think you know what I mean. As far as team kind of performances go, we've had really good pitching all around, but I was thinking about Roki Sasaki. He had a bad outing the other day, and it's weird how like I feel like we've sort of placed like the expectations on Roki Sasaki are so crazy that he has a 2.31 ERA, and that feels bad, which is ridiculous, right? Like any other pitcher in the history of baseball, you'd be like, oh, he's having a great season. But with Roki, it's like, oh man, he could be doing better. He's, I think, second or third in the league with 16 walks. Not great, but he's also picked up 53 strikeouts, which is second only behind Tetsuya Imai of the Lions at 58. And some injury news. Junior Fernandez has been diagnosed with a right distal clavicle lysis. I don't have any idea what that is. It's some sort of shoulder thing because I read that he's also undergone shoulder cleaning up surgery and he should be back around August. And a little shout out to the captain, Shogo Nakamura, or former captain. Did they take it away from him? I don't know. Who picked up his 200th career double on the 21st. That's yesterday as of recording. And yeah, the Marines have been playing pretty solidly. I mean, they're taking advantage of the Lions, but you got to play who you got to play, right? And looks like they're angling to keep themselves in the playoff picture. What do you think about the Marines so far, Gabe?
Second in the Pacific League for the month of May. Let's put it that way. 10-4-2 so far in the month. So whatever was broken in March and April seems to have been fixed for the Marines. I don't know if it's Yasuda waking up, if it's Polanco starting to swing. I personally am going to point to two guys. Hiromi Oka, who is among the league leaders in OPS at the moment. He sits fourth, the only non-Hawk in the top five. And Kazuya Ojima. I know everyone looks to Hiroki Sasaki as the big gaudy pitcher, but Ojima is a workhorse. 57 and one-third inning pitch, 2.5 ERA. He's only one-third of an inning behind the league leader in innings pitched, who would be Kohei Arihara. So you're getting someone who can give you volume as well as quality. And there's a reason why Marines fans have gravitated to him as maybe the fan favorite of the pitching staff. I know a lot of people are big Hiroki Sasaki fans. The way I hear it from Twitter, Ojima is their big guy in the stadium.
Well, that's cool. I didn't know that. Because I don't really follow Japanese swear, but it's cool to see that he's got a bit of a cult thing going on behind him. That's nice to know.
I know we speak a lot about Hiroki Sasaki, and I just chatted about Ojima, but the Marines' strength is in their rotation is actually really well distributed. Out of the top 16 pitchers who qualify for the ERA title, four of them are Marines. Sasaki sitting 8th, Ojima sitting 10th, Atsuki Taneichi sitting 12th, and Yuji Nishino, who we never talk about, sitting 15th. No other team in the league has more than three.
Not even the Hawks. Look at that. And that brings us over to our fourth place team, the team on the outside looking in, our defending champion, Oryx Buffaloes. Take it away, Gabe.
4-9-1 so far in May. I would consider this less than ideal. The back-to-back wins they had against the Eagles May 18th and 19th were the first pair of back-to-back wins since April 23rd and 24th. It's been a bit of a slog for the Buffaloes. They're now 12 and a half games back of first. Yes, this is a deep hole. The largest deficit they've overcome in winning a pennant, 11 and a half games 2 seasons ago. So nothing is set in stone. I'm not too concerned just yet. The gap to third is a more reasonable 3.5 games. The key for the Buffaloes is, like I said on the Midnight Matinee, Mori's got to start hitting, Nishikawa's got to start hitting, and Tongu's got to get healthy again. I have a possible solution to the Buffaloes' woes, though. They need to stop playing night games. They are 10-7-1 in the daylight, 7-16-1 in the moonlight. I mean, it's not like they can tell if they're at home, but still, maybe they get tired. Kudos to Shuhei Fukuda, their center fielder, bouncing back from a really rough 2023 to enter the batting title race. He's sitting third, a distant one albeit, behind Kondo and Yanagita at the time of this recording. One element in the Buffalo's 2022 Japan Series win that caught people's attention was that there were no foreign batters in the lineup. They have always had good success with foreign pitching, though. I'm thinking of guys like Andrew Albers and Jacob Waguespack and Brandon Dixon. This season's addition, Anderson Espinoza. He sits 6th in ERA among all Pacific League starters, and Andres Machado 10 holds and a 0.55 ERA in 16 and a thirds innings pitched. We know Hirano is going to be the closer until he gets that 250th save, maybe 253rd to put him third all-time past Kazuhiro Sasaki. But Machado, as an 8th inning guy, has been lights out. He absolutely deserves a shot in the 9th inning, too.
Yeah, he pitched on the Midnight Matinee we did, right? He looked really good. I don't know why they don't. They should definitely put him out there for more closing situations.
Hirano needs 250. I think it's as simple as that.
True. Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah. You got to get to that first, obviously. I think I might know why they're not playing well at nighttime. It's because their thing looks like a spaceship. The stadium looks like a spaceship, and aliens keep seeing it at night and try to take it away, causing interference with the players. Maybe.
That's a better justification than anything else I would have come up with. We'll roll with it, Jimbo. Good idea.
Okay, let's go with that explanation for now. And so that brings us over to the fifth place team, the Tohoku Rakuten Golden Eagles. Take it away, Gabe.
At least they're still in 5th, at only a half game back of the Buffaloes, too. The Eagles have not yet won a series this month, and it's beginning to get a little concerning. Getting dunked on 21-0 and 12-0 in consecutive games shows the widening gap between the Hawks and the rest of the Pacific League, too. I mean, we were joking. I'm like, what? It's only 3 touchdowns. They can make it up. Wait, sorry, I'm hearing word this is not a football game. And worse, the 21 runs allowed was only the second most in Eagles club history. Back in their inaugural season, the Marines dunked 26 on them. First or second game of their existence, they give up 26 runs to the Marines. Oof, ouchie, my soul. I do have one or two positive little tidbits that I found. Right fielder Yuya Ogo and second baseman Hiroto Kobukata both have 11 stolen bases on the year, making the Eagles the only team with 2 players in double digits. Heck, the only other 2 guys with more than 10 are Ukyo Shuto, the super speedster on the Hawks, with 16, and the Fighters outfielder Go Matsumoto, also with 11. And Takahiro Norimoto still has not allowed an earned run. He's a perfect 9 for 9 with 3 holds out of the closer position. Between him, Sung Cha Hao, the Taiwanese Titan, Tomohito Sakai, Eagles bullpen looking really good, which is helpful because their pitching rotation is Hayakawa, Kishi, a wing and a prayer at this point.
Yeah, say Yuki Matsui, who? We don't need you. And yeah, that's interesting because I did think the bullpen might be a bit of a struggle with Matsui going, but it's good to see that the Eagles still have that as a strength going into the season. Hideo Asamura is still doing decently, so hopefully they can maybe put something together and climb their way up the rankings. But
If they're gonna do it, I think they're gonna have to maybe gonna have to lean into Imae Ball, their new manager. Little more small ball, more stolen bases, more point-to-point contact. The only guys with power threat on the team are Asamura and Ogo. So build around those guys, I guess.
yeah, for sure. And speaking of a team that I think it's over. I don't think they're getting out of this. The bottom last place team in the Pacific League by quite a wide margin. The Saitama Seibu Lions, they've gone 2-8 since we last spoke. We try to generally be positive here on the show, but there's not a lot to be positive about with the Lions right now. The offense is in complete disarray. They've only managed to score more than 3 runs twice in all of May. Even the starting pitching, just like, mathematically, it's not always going to hold up, and it's starting to wobble a little bit just because you can't ask these guys to super deliver every night. Psychologically, it must do something to you to know that you can give up like 3 hits in 1 run and you're going to lose. Like it's brutal. Um, it was Shooter Tonosaki's been really struggling this year. He's even having less offensive output than Sosuke Genda. And Sosuke Genda is not expected to be that good of a hitter, though he's having a decent year by his standards. And I mean, hopefully Tonosaki can bring it around because he was really like the heart and soul of the offense last year. And it's been rough with him struggling this badly. And as we mentioned before, the Lions are 0-8 against the Marines, which I think I've heard a lot of people say is like the biggest rivalry in the Pacific League. So to have that rivalry be so one-sided right now must be very, very upsetting to Lions fans. But we'll try to be positive, and on a positive note, I've been saying for like a week or two that I don't know why they don't call up Takuya Hiruma, their first round pick from a year or two ago. And they called him up, and he's been batting 324 and picked up the go ahead RBI against Rakuten, which is one of their only wins in the past like while. So I think, I like him a lot. I don't think he's going to be like a superstar, but I really like his swing. He's got a good, clean pull swing, and he's a really good defensive player. So, I mean, he's not going to change the world and be their go-to guy, but it's good to finally have something like some life, a bit of a productive bat in the lineup. And, young catcher Yuto Koga's having a decent year. He seems to be coming along nicely. So, that's something else to look forward to. I mean, again, we're trying to be as positive as we can. And maybe coming up the pipe, Shinosuke Hada has been really good in the farm. He was one of the highest rated prospects coming into the year, but I mean, but they have so much pitching. That's just the problem is where are you going to put him? But he was rated higher than Takeuchi, who's been great so far. So, I mean, again, but they
I
don't
mean,
need
you're
more
you
pitching. It's like the one thing they don't need.
I mean, Jimbo, you're burying the lead. Natsuki Takeuchi has not just been good, he's been great. In 6 starts, he leads the Pacific League in ERA as a starting pitcher with a 1.43. 44 innings pitched, 1 home run allowed, 8 walks, 30 strikeouts.
Yeah, no, he's the truth. He's amazing. And so I'm saying there's a prospect who people were rating higher than him who's coming up. This guy's his ERA was 0.99, I think, down in the farm. Like again, now it begs now, unlike Hiruma, where I didn't understand why Hiruma wasn't getting called up, it's obvious why Shinsuke is not getting called up. It's because they've just got way too many starting pitchers. Like if somebody gets injured, fine, bring him up, but it's a real logjam at the pitching position. And yeah, I mean, hopefully the Lions can at least I feel safe in saying they're not making the playoffs now unless something insane happens, but hopefully they can just at least start playing better baseball for the fans because it's been rough. And what's also kind of rough just for me personally is I'm starting to like learn the history of teams more. And so now I'm learning about the Invincible Cebu era and I'm like, "Oh, these guys were great. What was this?" And now it's just oh, it's so sad now. And they had so many good hitters back then. So I just they got to start as great as they've been at developing pitching. They need to start developing some hitters like ASAP, like they've done with the past couple years, where they like only drafted pitchers, which was a bold strategy. Time to just only draft hitters and just see if something sticks.
Or trade. I know most Japanese general managers are allergic to trades because what if you give up someone good? But you got to trade from your strength to get a strong player.
And they've got more than enough starting pitchers to put one or two of them out there as bait to get some hitters or some prospects back at least.
All right,
But
I know we're not supposed to speculate,
we're really
but
not.
here's an idea.
You'd have
You
to
know what?
put
We're
together
just
a
going to cut
shocking
this whole
package.
section.
Yeah, I
Never
know.
mind.
Yeah. We'll talk about that. I know. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, oh, we definitely can't broadcast. Yeah, again, we're doing a shorter show today, so no ad breaks, and we don't really have a lot for our familiar faces in new places. But I'm sure, as all of you know, being baseball fans, far and wide in the world, Shohei Ohtani is the greatest player in the world. I think he leads the league in average, and I see what is he batting like 365 or something with like 200 home runs. Slight exaggeration, but I think it's actually like what's he at 15 now already?
Working on it. He leads the league in OPS with a 1.08, in average with a 356. He has 13 home runs to go with it.
Okay, so
Oh,
I
and
was
he's a
making
perfect 13 for 13 in stolen bases because that's another thing Shohei Ohtani can do now.
he's just the best. He's just the greatest player there ever was.
I know we get goo goo eyes over Ohtani, but you got to look at some of the other Pacific League players, including one guy who's been in the majors for a while, Yusei Kikuchi. He's sitting 17th across all of Major League Baseball in ERA with a 2.64 over 58 innings pitched, 1.12 whip, 2.36 or 0.236 opponent average. Yusei's been really good and making a strong case for an extension here in Toronto. I would love to see him continue to pitch.
We all bow down to his greatness. But that'll bring us to the end of today's show. Thank you, as ever, oh, so much for listening, and we'll see you next week on the podcast. Take care. Good morning, good evening, good everything in between, and welcome to the podcast. It is week 8, and we are getting on our way through the season. Interleague is coming up. I'm your host, Jim Obernicki, and I'm joined as always by Mr. Gabe Lerman. Gabe, how you doing?
Newly hitched. And I
That's
gotta say,
true.
feels pretty good.
Newly hitched and back from his globe-trotting honeymoon. I was going to say vacation, almost the same thing, not quite. Where'd you go? Real quick, let's just talk about that for a sec.
Just to Amsterdam. I did get to take in a baseball game though.
And what's the difference? It's like a different kind of game, right? Or is it's just still
It's the
baseball?
same game. You're thinking of the Finnish Pesapallo, which is some mutant form of baseball. No, in the Netherlands, it's the same game. They just call it honkball.
Honk ball. That's a great name.
So
So
in one of the top 10 plays, I mentioned I'm coming back from my honeymoon, and I say more honk on the honkball.
and we are unfortunately not joined by Mr. Michael Beasley. He's a little under the weather this week, so we will be splitting his work. And so, Gabe, what do you have for today for us in the top stories?
All-star voting has opened up. If you're up for navigating a Japanese website, you can visit npb.jp, and you too can vote to send your favorite Pacific League players to the 2-game series. Unlike in North America, there are 2 All-Star games, one at each of a CL and PL ballpark, This year, the first All-Star game will be at Escon Field, Hokkaido. The second at Meiji Jingu Stadium.
I think that's a really cool parallel. I love the idea of having sort of like the newest stadium and of Jingu's the was it the oldest or would that be Koshin?
I think Koshien predates Jingu, but not by much.
Yeah, okay. It's a nice, beautiful little parallel there. I think that's very cool. Maybe next week we will let you know what our All-Star ballots were. And also, as I alluded to, Interleague is coming up. What do you have for us on that?
All I'm going to say is that second place in the Pacific League has a better record than first place in the Central. So things could get a little tilted. This is going to be an opportunity for the rest of the Pacific League to gain some ground on the Hawks, if anything, because the
Mhm.
CL probably is the weaker league at this point. At least more, tighter bunched together. The distance from first to second in the PL is the same as first to sixth in the CL. I
Yeah,
also think it's going to be weird to see Pacific League pitchers bat at the CL ballparks, but of course we can't see it because we don't have the broadcast rights. But all interleague matches hosted at Pacific League ballparks will be available on Pacific League TV. They may also be available on FTF Sports and WatchDingo.com